Postcolonial literary theory is an approach to analyzing and interpreting literature that examines the ways in which colonialism and imperialism have shaped literary texts and their reception. It emerged in the 1980s and 1990s as a response to the Eurocentric and colonialist assumptions of traditional literary criticism. Postcolonial literary theory focuses on the works of writers from formerly colonized regions, including Africa, Asia, and the Caribbean, as well as on the literature of the diaspora. It seeks to uncover the ways in which colonialism has influenced language, style, and form, and how it has shaped the themes and characters in literature. Some key concepts in postcolonial theory include othering. This concept refers to the way in which colonial powers construct colonized peoples as other, or different from themselves. This often involves the creation of negative stereotypes and representations of the colonized, which reinforces the power dynamics of colonialism. Hybridity. This refers to the mixing of different cultures that occurs as a result of colonial encounters. Hybridity challenges the notion of pure, unchanging cultures, and highlights the dynamic nature of culture and identity. Subaltern. This refers to the marginalized and oppressed groups who are excluded from dominant discourses and structures of power. The term was coined by the Indian scholar Gayatri Chakravorty Spivak to highlight the ways in which colonialism silenced the voices of those it sought to control. Resistance. This refers to the various forms of resistance to colonial power and oppression that are present in literature, culture, and politics. Resistance can take many forms, from political activism to cultural expression and artistic creation. Orientalism. This concept was developed by the scholar Edward Said to describe the way in which Western culture has constructed the East as exotic and inferior. Orientalism involves a set of assumptions and stereotypes about non-Western cultures that have had a significant impact on the representation of these cultures in literature, art, and popular culture. Postcolonialism. This refers to the ongoing effects of colonialism and imperialism on culture, politics, and society, even after the formal end of colonial rule. Postcolonialism highlights the continued dominance of Western powers in the global political and economic order, and the ongoing struggle for self-determination and cultural autonomy in former colonies. Colonialism. This refers to the political, economic, and cultural domination of one country over another. Colonialism involves the use of military force, political control, and economic exploitation to exert power over a colonized territory and its people. Imperialism. This refers to the extension of a country's power and influence through the use of economic, military, and political means. Imperialism often involves the colonization of other territories and the exploitation of their resources and people. There have been many influential postcolonial theorists who have made significant contributions to the field. Here are some examples. Edward Said. Said's book, Orientalism, is considered a foundational text in postcolonial theory. In it, he argues that Western representations of the East were based on Orientalist stereotypes that served to justify Western imperial domination. He also coined the term exile to describe his own experience as a Palestinian-American academic and intellectual. Homi K. Bhaver, an Indian literary critic and postcolonial theorist, Bhaver is known for his work on hybridity, mimicry, and cultural identity. His work emphasizes the complexity of cultural identity in the postcolonial context and the importance of recognizing the agency of subaltern groups. Gayatri Chakravorty Spivak, an Indian literary theorist, feminist scholar, and postcolonial theorist, Spivak is known for her work on the subaltern and the limits of representation. Her essay, Can the Subaltern Speak?, is a classic text in postcolonial theory and argues for the importance of giving voice to marginalized groups. Frantz Fanon, a Martinican philosopher, psychiatrist, and revolutionary, Fanon is known for his work on the psychological effects of colonialism and the struggle for liberation from colonial oppression. His book, The Wretched of the Earth, is a classic text in postcolonial theory and argues for the necessity of violent revolution as a means of achieving decolonization. Ngugi wa Thiong'o, a Kenyan writer and postcolonial theorist, Ngugi is known for his work on language and decolonization. He argues that language is a key site of colonial power and that reclaiming indigenous languages is an important part of the decolonization process. Postcolonial critics use a variety of questions to analyze texts from a postcolonial perspective. Some questions that a postcolonial critic might ask when analyzing a text include: 1. How does the text represent the colonized people and their culture? Is this representation accurate, or is it based on stereotypes and assumptions? 2. How does the text engage with the history of colonialism and imperialism? Does it critique or challenge the power dynamics of colonialism, or does it reinforce them? 3. How does the text represent the relationship between the colonizer and the colonized? Does it challenge or subvert this relationship, or does it reinforce it? 4. How does the text engage with issues of hybridity and cultural mixing? Does it celebrate or critique the blending of cultures that occurs as a result of colonial encounters? 5. How does the text represent issues of identity and belonging in a post-colonial context? Does it challenge or reinforce the binary oppositions that are often used to construct identity in colonial contexts? 6. How does the text represent resistance to colonial power and oppression? Does it valorize or marginalize forms of resistance, and how does this relate to the politics of the text? 7. How does the text engage with issues of language and translation? Does it challenge or reinforce the dominance of English and other Western languages in global cultural and intellectual production? These questions are intended to prompt a critical examination of the ways in which texts engage with issues of power, identity, and culture in a post-colonial context. Post-colonial literary theory has had a major influence on literary studies, cultural studies, and related fields. It has provided a framework for understanding the ways in which literature reflects and responds to historical and cultural contexts, and has helped to give voice to previously marginalized and silenced perspectives.